Disgaea 6 is an interesting game for me to talk about. I didn't exactly know how to come at this review. Do I present it to you as a veteran to the series, as someone who has played all the Disgaea games to date, diving deep into the post-game for each one, going into the item world, defeating item gods 1 and 2, getting rank 39 equipment, not to mention defeating the super boss of each Disgaea game, Baal, whose stats get up to the millions. I win! I win! Yes! So right. Woo! There we go. Or do I present this review to you as if you are new to the Disgaea games, because I do feel this is probably the most newcomer friendly entry yet, and basically judging this game almost standalone and nearly on its own merits. I think by the end of this review it's going to be a mixture of the two. Either way, the latest entry to the Disgaea series changes things up quite a bit. As much as I did enjoy my time with Disgaea 6 so far, I can easily tell you this isn't my new favorite Disgaea game. That goes to Disgaea 2, and it's not the best Disgaea game to date. That goes to Disgaea 5. But I will say Disgaea 6 is without a doubt the most optimized Disgaea game. Now let's get one of the biggest elephants in the room out of the way first, and that's the move to 3D. Disgaea up until this point has always used 2D sprites, but with this entry, the move has been made to 3D models. Now there's nothing wrong with the 3D look per se, but it just doesn't fit the Disgaea mode, if you will. Disgaea has always had its cutscenes presented in a visual novel style that highlights its amazing artwork, but sometimes it uses the in-game graphics to present cutscenes. And in these cutscenes, the characters don't get too animated, but they always had these 3 or 5 poses that they would make so the characters can express themselves. With the move to 3D, these poses look a bit out of place. It works better when the characters are in 2D. It's really a minor gripe and something you're probably not going to notice if you're playing the series for the first time. Now, when you make the move to 3D, you have to worry about game performance even more, and this is where I get a little bit tilted. And I wouldn't be this way if the game was, at the time of this recording, made available on both Switch and PS4 as it is in Japan. For the Western release, NIS America only made the Switch version available. I don't know the reason for this. It could be that NIS America saw how well Disgaea 5 complete sold on Switch, or they couldn't afford to put the game on 2 platforms, or they were worried about Sony's censorship putting it on PS4. Bottom line, this game runs pretty abysmal on Switch. Luckily, there are 3 graphic settings that you can put the game on. Graphics mode, which will prioritize how the game looks but will suffer significant frame rate drops, and if you ask me, it makes the game unplayable, going anywhere from 20 to 30 FPS. I put some graphics mode gameplay up so you can see it firsthand. No, your connection is not that bad, that's just how the game runs in graphics mode. You have performance mode that will prioritize keeping the game running at 60 FPS but will sacrifice graphical fidelity so the game will look quite a bit fuzzy and blurry, which I notice more in handheld mode. On that note, I played the game on performance, so you'll be seeing gameplay for this review mostly on that setting. And you have balance mode, which tries to strike a balance between the 2 settings. However, the frame rate drops was still too much for me to keep it in this mode. Listen guys, I'm sorry, but I have my own personal standards. If graphics don't mean much to you, then that's just dandy and you don't have to worry about this. But I believe we are at a certain point in gaming where this kind of thing is just unacceptable in my opinion. It personally hurts me even more knowing that there is a PS4 version of this game and those problems simply don't exist. So go ahead, tell me I'm bitching, tell me I'm being unreasonable caring about a turn-based strategy game's frame rate. I simply don't care. Like I said, I got my own standards. I know some of you are going to say it's going to be a Disgaea 6 complete and it's probably going to be on PC or PS5 sometime down the road, but for now, this is the game we've been dealt. While I'm at it, I need to discuss the sound design for this game. The music tracks are typical for a Disgaea game. They are quite good and fit the overall theme of the game. The sound effects while in battle can be a bit delayed if you input a bunch at a time, but the sound effects coming in late well past the time they needed to occur. This is something I really never got used to, and playing the Japanese PS4 demo, I noticed this wasn't an issue. So I can only guess that the move to 3D and the limited power of the Switch are the main culprits here. The game simply cannot keep up on this platform. Anyway, story-wise, this is a good entry for Disgaea. You follow Zed, who is a zombie. He is on a quest to defeat the god of destruction. Zed is kinda your typical Disgaea protag. He's a lone wolf type and doesn't like to be around people, but along the way he meets some interesting personalities and starts to open himself up. And Disgaea has never really taken itself too seriously with characters, and this game really doesn't hold back with the parodies. You got a king who's a straight up callback to old school RPGs like Dragon Quest with a passion for his bank account. You got a princess who wants her own happy ending with her prince-to-be, and her character is pretty much taking a shot at nearly all Disney princesses, and to go even further, she's always singing as she talks. They straight up unleash an entire clip on the anime community when it comes to a certain character. Stop me if you heard this one before, but she's your typical run-of-the-mill lolly character, but she's actually over 10,000 years old.
Trotting around as a miniskirt wearing magical girl when I'm already well over 10,000 years old. What a nightmare.
And even Power Rangers get caught with a stray with someone being a Prism Ranger. It's funny, when you place her on the map, she sometimes says this.
Go Prism Rangers!
This cast fits right in with Disgaea, and I have no major issues with any of them. The voice acting for each character works for me, and the entire story is voice acted, but I certainly wouldn't blame you if you wanted to switch over to the Japanese audio, which this game provides to you the option. The story gets a bit repetitive with some beats and even some areas being revisited. It doesn't make sense for the story while you are revisiting these areas, but I kind of feel like this is a way to save on asset creation. Hell, you keep fighting the same boss time and time again. As for gameplay, as much as I have problems with the move to 3D or the game's overall performance and presentation, this game is your typical Disgaea affair. A strategy game with a whole lot of options to customize your party members and level them up to insane stats. You play on a grid battlefield, dispatching your party members that consist of main characters of the story or characters you created, moving around while mining geopanels that the map may have, which could give negative or positive effects depending on the type of geopanel. You defeat your enemies with a wide variety of skills and attacks. Speaking of which, Disgaea is kind of known for its over-the-top and crazy attack animations. While it's here, they definitely don't hit the same or have that same sense of shock and awe with the move to 3D. Now, this Disgaea game starts you out in high levels, so your level from a newcomer perspective will seem extremely high. But if you know even a little about Disgaea, you know levels don't mean too much at the end of the day. I feel this game does a great job introducing people to Disgaea's core, having high stats and dealing high amounts of damage to get you used to what's to come after you completed the main story. The game ties in a long-time mechanic of reincarnation into the game's story with super reincarnation, which I personally believe helps newcomers get the idea of how useful the reincarnation mechanic has always been. It restarts a character's level back to 1, but in exchange, the stats they get as they level up will be much higher than before they reincarnated, making it an excellent way to make your character stronger than just giving them new equipment or leveling up an item in the ever dangerous and unpredictable item world. Speaking of leveling up, everybody gets a level in this game. In previous entries, you had to use a character to defeat an enemy for them to gain experience to level up individually, but now if the character was on the map at the end of the battle, they gain experience, which does help in saving time when it comes to creating characters and getting them up to par with the rest of your party. And speaking of saving time, we have to address the other huge elephant in the room: auto battle and auto repeat. A first for this series. With auto battle, you can set the game to fight battles for you, and you can even further customize a character's AI precisely so they can clear a whole map for you. Auto repeat allows you to just repeat the same map over and over again without having to go back to the game's base or map selection screen. With both these options turned on, you can easily grind out levels. You can leave the game on for however long you feel comfortable with, and the game will auto win a map for you and repeat the map over and over again. I wasn't too thrilled about these new features when I unlocked them fairly early on, but part of the fun of Disgaea, if you ask me, is leveling up your party members and seeing the fruits of your labor from your hard work and patience. But now all that can be thrown to the wayside and you can just automate everything. Hell, you can play the entire story mode with these features on, completely missing out on what makes Disgaea, well, Disgaea. But the developers put these features in the game almost from the get-go, so they want you to use these during the story, I guess. And the story maps do have some interesting geopanels that will make auto battle maybe not the best option to use, so at least there's that. If you ask me, auto battle and auto repeat should have been made available after you completed the main story, and want to really increase your character stats, because the level cap in this game went absurdly high, with stats reaching the hundreds of millions. So this could make the grind to that point more tolerable, but to add these features from the beginning and make it so everybody can just kind of abuse it feels like you don't really earn it. But I don't know, maybe this will make more people interested in Disgaea games, knowing that in the main story they don't have to do too much if they don't want to and just want to experience the story, I suppose. When it comes down to it, Disgaea 6 isn't a bad game, but it definitely doesn't push the series forward in almost any meaningful way. If you're a longtime fan of the series, you're going to notice the plethora of features missing, like team and tower attack animations, combo attacks for story characters like Disgaea 5 had, how monster units are basically the same as human units, and let's not even talk about how many character classes got cut. And so much more. Some of these missing features could be to make the series more streamlined and simple so newcomers aren't too overwhelmed. The number of characters you can dispatch on the map has been lowered from what it could potentially get to in Disgaea 5 because of budget reasons, and probably the game couldn't keep up with so many characters on screen. Speaking of budget, why doesn't Disgaea 6 have an anime opening like the rest of the games in the series? As I said in the beginning, I enjoyed my time with Disgaea 6. It's definitely on a lower spectrum when it comes to its ranking in the series. It still has all the Disgaea goodness and customization that I've come to love from these games, but the charm of the Disgaea games, while it's not lost with the move to 3D, it definitely took a considerable hit if you ask me. As always, be sure to buff that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Also join Notification Brigade so you can know when I'm uploading a video or when I'm going live. That's it for now. I'll catch you all later. Peace.